Insecure ended the series finale last night, and a lot of the fans enjoyed the ending, and some of the fans did not. As a fan of the series and a fan of Issa Rae and all the cast on the show, well, I was never part of the Lawrence Hive ever, um, but that's just me. I understand why they ended the show that way because they wanted to show us three different love stories, and we got it all in one finale, which is great. They tied all the ends the way they could. The very first love story that I think a lot of people overlooked in this series is the name Insecure, right? The very first one is self-love. My very second love story is with Molly and Issa, friendship, sisterhood, and then the third one to me is the relationship with Issa and Lawrence, love, romance, things like that. This show really has inspired me on so many levels. I'm a huge fan of Issa Rae. I try to see things from all perspectives at all times. I grew up like that. I didn't quite understand it when I was younger. I always placed myself in other people's shoes. I always granted mercy to people who didn't even necessarily, what's the word, appreciate it, or I can't think of the word I want to use here, but they didn't deserve it, but I gave it anyway. And the reason I gave that is because the way God loves me with all my flaws and inconsistencies and disobedience and fear, He still grants me mercy and grace every second of the day. So with that being said, who am I not to extend that same energy, love, expression to someone else who are just trying to find their way? I remember as a kid that I would do that often. Not to put, some business out there, but even when I was younger, was situations where I knew my mom's reaction had nothing to do with me. The way she did certain things had nothing to do with me. I knew that as a kid, and I took those things in. I felt that I had to be the person that she was able to express that with. I thought I was giving her a safe place to do that, even though some of those things was kind of fucked up. But there's no here nor there. That's not what this is about. I was only bringing that up to say that, like I said, in this series, there was three different types of love stories. And the one I want to talk about is the self-love story with Insecure that a lot of women don't talk about or scared to talk about, that they only share privately with themselves or maybe with a close friend if they're lucky. I remember at church we had a women's conference retreat or whatever it was, and they wanted you to write a statement like, I'm paraphrasing, I am, and write about yourself, or write an I am kind of essay kind of thing, right? And so then when we get on that day, if you want to, you can get up and share your I am essay. So I'm listening. My mom is with me, and I'm listening to different women at the different women ages get up, and the I ams all talked about them being mothers. Most of them was mothers and motherhood and their kids and that and that. And I'm looking at my paper and I don't get up and go read mine because my paper had nothing. It barely even mentioned my kids. The I am essay was about me, my dreams, my vision, my goals. It was about me. Yes, I love my children. Yes, I would die for my children. Yes, my kids are my heartbeats. Yes, they are my motivation. But I knew early on in my life that I'm a tree with branches, and my kids are two branches on that tree. They're not the whole tree. And I remember talking to my mom, and she's like, well, you're going to read yours? And I was like, no. And I was just looking around the room, looking at all these different women, and I'm just sitting here like, I told my mom, I said, all they talked about was your kids. And she's looking at me like, okay. I said, no. I mean, all they talked about is their kids. And I was like, I felt sad. I'm being honest. I felt sad. I felt like, as a woman, she's a woman with all these accolades and initials behind her name, and all she talked about was her kids. And don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong here. Motherhood can be joyous. It can be wonderful. But motherhood is not to me, my opinion, motherhood is just an extension of you. It's your legacy, So I was looking around the room and I'm like, wow, I mean, all these women, and I don't even know who they really are outside of their kids. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, wow. So I know I'm not going to read mine because mine, like I said, didn't have much about my kids on there. It talked about me. It talked about Vicky before the kids got on the scene. You know what I'm saying? So, and I even brought this up to my friend Courtney. I don't know if she's listening to this or if she remembered this conversation that we had. And me and her had many conversations like this. Some ended well, some did not, and which is cool. And we respected each other enough to just disagree. And I'm quite sure when we hung up the phone with each other, I'm quite sure that conversation was discussed with somebody else, and which is fine. Love you, Courtney. If you're listening, love you, girl. But again, it just bothered me that the self-love was missing, and I think with the insecure, it showed us that Issa had what she needed all along on the inside. She doubted herself, even when no one else was really doubting her, maybe two people, she said. But, I mean, and like I said, I go back to remember that show brought me back to me remembering that situation where most women do not talk about the self-love enough for me, It takes them years. Sometimes when the kids are out of their home, and I'm not anti-motherhood or anything like that. I'm just saying is sometimes it's kind of hard for us to dig deep into the self-love part of us because we have allowed so many distractions. We have allowed culture and society and other people, other voices dictate to you when, where, and how the self-love should take place, and things like that. So that seeing Issa come full circle with herself, that she used to, get in the mirror and have what she called mirror bitch. And mirror bitch was, would say the things that Issa wouldn't say out loud herself, right? Because we can't say different things out loud as women sometimes. Especially we can't say anything against motherhood out loud. OMG, if you do that, baby, woo! If you say anything against motherhood, and I've had those conversations, me and Courtney, we had these conversations, and she quite didn't understand where I was coming from at that time. But I kind of think she gets it a little bit now since she's a mother now. Early on, she was not, and when I was speaking from my point of view about motherhood, and she wasn't a mother at the time. She couldn't resonate, which is fine, which is understandable, acceptable, all of that. But now when I say those little things about motherhood, I get a silent high five. I don't think she would ever really say to me or say the things I said. Not that she's afraid to or anything like that. It's just that I've always been a little bit more outspoken when it comes to things like that. Not trying to be a rebel or black sheep, was just being true to myself. I mean, like I said, even as a kid, I knew that some of the things that was, I don't want to use the word normal, but I wasn't just to go with the flow kind of chick. I never have been just to go with the flow kind of thing. I've always kind of dissected and analyzed, and also, I mean, sometimes people can call me selfish or bougie or whatever. I always put myself in a place of taking care of myself first, because I understood early on, if you don't take care of yourself first, you are no good for nobody else. I knew that, I don't know how that was in my spirit, but it was in my spirit since I was knee-high to a duck. And I know people call that selfish. No, baby, that ain't selfish. That's love. And I knew I loved me. No one had to encourage me to love me. You know what I'm saying? So for me to see Issa come full circle and loving herself without needing those extra voices. I hope y'all understand what I'm saying. She didn't need those extra voices anymore to tell her who she is, how many branches or what type of branches is on her tree. She knew she was the foundation. She knew she had the roots. She laid the roots. She did the groundwork. She took accountability. She started understanding that she has to love herself first. She has to believe in herself first. She has to be selfish first. She has to show up for herself first. She has to speak to herself first. She has to take the risk first. She has to do what's in her heart first, before all those other things will fall into place, before all those other branches start growing and becoming seen and becoming heard, becoming lovable, strong, individual branches. Individual branches. So the series is come to a close. Issa is finally standing up for herself, loving herself, giving herself space to be who she is, holding space for other people is great and grand. But when you freaking get to a place to hold that space for yourself, baby, when you understand the freedom that brings, the pride, the humbleness, all of that interaction together, that you take care of yourself first. And they tell you that on the plane. When they tell you on the plane, put your oxygen mask on first. That's not being selfish. That's preservation. And then, to see the love of relationships, friendships. And here I'm talking about Courtney again. Me and her did an episode for my podcast talking about last year when Molly and Issa was going through it, baby. Woo! Ooh, that resonated so much with me on so many levels, with friendships, with female friendships, sisterhood, and things like that. Because I got a list of relationships that did not work, that with sisterhood did not work. That's another story too. And then also too, the love story with the guy, the romantic side. Messy is that messy was scripted, and I'm hoping a lot of people understand that was a scripted, messy Love Jones at its best. I'm gonna say that and let that go. But I just wanted to just share my thoughts on the insecure. It inspired this conversation, me making this YouTube upload. And I thank you guys for rocking with me. Thank you for listening. And please, if you enjoy anything that I do, that I upload and create, please share, engage, comment, because your girl could use it always. So if you have not gotten into the series of Insecure, please do support. And I just love how she went from Insecure to she writing her own I Am essay, and she put herself first, and she started loving herself first. And I totally dig it. I do hate that the series is coming to an end, but all those people that was a part of that series is taking flight, going to different spaces, and there are different creative spaces. So we're going to get to see all of that pretty soon with all them different people, which is great. All right, guys, again, you go be great, be blessed, be bold, be empowered.